Hello, Jutta. Thank you very much for presenting at the Public Sector Roundtable. You presented on mindfulness. Mindfulness seems to be a very hot topic these days, but what is it really about and where does it come from?
Well, Pietro, I'm really glad that you got me to present this today. Mindfulness is a way of paying attention to any situation like this one here and actually being physically and mentally here as opposed to thinking about what I did before or worrying about or projecting myself into the future, and really paying attention to the questions that you're going to ask me and to answering them as best I can.
And so it comes from an interest in well-being, you were saying today, and the idea that a lot of people are stressed at work and so on, but it's not just a stress management technique, is that right?
That's right. It seems that the interest in organizations in mindfulness is coming from a stress management perspective, that people are overwhelmed, constantly on show, on display in organizations, and are becoming more fragmented as a result. And so mindfulness practice is a way of slowing down and paying attention to what's going on, maybe even inside ourselves, and what's going on in the space between you and me, or between me and the organization that I'm working in. And that, in the first instance, has a benefit to make people more calm and more collected. And this is where we are starting to jump off from a performance management perspective.
Yeah. And so in a management context, so this is not just about me managing my own feelings or attention, but it becomes more something that changes what people do, like in a meeting, for example. Is that right?
It changes, and this is where we've got some empirical evidence at Cranfield already, where mindfulness seeps into, for example, a performance review meeting. We're finding that people abandon their preconceived notions about what the situation requires or what they think they should do in the situation, and they become open to the data or the situation as a whole, and then they can pick up and use that information in the moment and make higher quality decisions that then ultimately affect performance.
And so the idea would be, the holy grail in performance management is having good information that can be used for the goals of the organization and to make decisions around that. So what you're saying is that this kind of decision-making process, if you want, becomes what changes, is different from the usual, let's take a quick decision now type of thing.
Yeah. It basically, you have to practice mindfulness if you are not already a naturally mindful person. And so at the very lowest level of practicing this skill or this cognitive style of approaching a situation with your thoughts being more broadly aware of what's actually going on, at the most basic level, it is about focusing your attention on the here and now. And it is a very simple practice that is coming from the age-old meditative practices that, of course, we are not applying in a religious sense. But the first instance is focusing your awareness and your attention. And that opens up the possibility to actually paying attention to what the situation requires. But you have to practice this type of skill like you would practice developing muscles in a gym. So we're calling it mental muscle training.
And so to conclude, essentially, some of the things that, again, in an organizational context, we could reach by having more people that appreciate, at least, or practice, of course, this idea of the mental training that you're talking about, is really to have moments in which people are a bit more open and less defensive, where maybe different, more innovative ideas might be explored instead of discarded from the beginning, where this kind of fear of being accountable or responsible is not always there. Is that correct?
I think you're absolutely spot on. What I'm finding and what excites me about the prospect of developing this into a fully fledged empirically based framework is that this seems to touch the holy grail of double loop learning in organizations, where so far we all know what it looks like when somebody is not defensive, and when somebody is actually open to listening to your conflicting or deviating opinion. But the management literature so far is quite descriptive at pointing at highly performing teams when leaders or when the opinion leaders are open and flexible. But what this is doing is adding a prescription onto this by practicing sitting with potentially slightly uncomfortable single units of experience. We're developing the muscle to opening up our minds to actually engaging in this double loop learning, which means I might actually question my whole preconceived perception and perspective of what life should be like, what our meeting should be about. And this is where innovation and actual smart learning in organizations has a chance of growing systematically as opposed to sporadically and serendipitously, which is what we're seeing currently.
Yes. That was great. We really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you.